Jean-André Deluc was a Swiss geologist and meteorologist. He also devised measuring instruments. Biography. Jean-André Deluc was born in Geneva. His family had come to Switzerland from Lucca, Italy, in the 15th century. His mother was Françoise Wau. His father, Jacques-François Deluc, had written in refutation of Bernard Mandeville and other rationalistic writers. As a student of Georges-Louis Lesage, Jean-André Deluc received a basic education in mathematics and in natural philosophy. He engaged early in business, which occupied a large part of his first adult years, with the exception of scientific investigation in the Alps. With the help of his brother Guillaume Antoine, he built a splendid collection of mineralogy and natural history. Deluc also took part in politics. In 1768, sent on an embassy to the Duc de Choiseul in Paris, he succeeded in gaining the Duke's friendship. In 1770 he became a member of the Council of 200 in Geneva. 3 years later, business reverses forced him to leave his native town. He returned, briefly only once. The change freed him for non-scientific pursuits. With little regret he moved to England in 1773, where he was appointed reader to Queen Charlotte, a position he held for 44 years and that afforded him both leisure and income. In the latter part of his life he was given leave to make several tours of Switzerland, France, Holland and Germany. At the beginning of his German tour, he was distinguished with an honorary professorship of philosophy and geology at the University of Göttingen, which helped to cover diplomatic missions for the King George III. Back to England, he undertook a geological tour of the country. In 1773 Deluc was made a Fellow of the Royal Society. He was a correspondent of the French Academy of Sciences and a member of several other learned societies. He died at Windsor, Berkshire, England, in 1817, after nearly 70 years of research. Deluc, an impact crater on the Moon, was given his name. Scientific contributions, observations and theory. Deluc's main interests were geology and meteorology. Georges Cuvier mentions him as an authority on the former subject. His major geological work, Lettres physiques et morales sur les montagnes et sur l'histoire de la terre et de l'homme, was dedicated to Queen Charlotte. He published volumes on geological travels, in northern Europe, in England, and in France, Switzerland and Germany. Deluc noticed the disappearance of heat in the thawing of ice about the same time that Joseph Black made it the foundation of his hypothesis of latent heat. He ascertained that water was densest at about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. He was the originator of the theory, later reactivated by John Dalton, that the quantity of water vapor contained in any space is independent of the presence or density of the air or of any other elastic fluid. His Lettres sur l'histoire physique de la terre, addressed to Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, contain an essay on the existence of a general principle of morality. They also give an interesting account of conversations with Voltaire and Rousseau. Deluc was an ardent admirer of Francis Bacon, on whose writings he published 2 works, Bacon tel quil, showing the bad faith of the French translator, who had omitted many passages favorable to revealed religion, and Prérequisites de la philosophie de Bacon, giving an interesting view of the progress of natural science. Lettres sur le christianisme was a controversial correspondence with Wilhelm Abraham Teller of Berlin in regard to the Mosaic cosmogony. His Traité élémentaire de géologie was principally intended as a refutation of James Hutton and John Playfair. They had shown that geology was driven by the operation of internal heat and erosion, but the system required much more time than Deluc's mosaic variety of Neptunism allowed. Many other papers are in the Journal de Physique, in the Philosophical Transactions and in the Philosophical Magazine. Instruments. Deluc dedicated a large part of his activity to perfecting or inventing measuring instruments. He devised a portable barometer for use in geological expeditions. His recherches sur les modifications de l'atmosphère contain experiments on moisture, evaporation and the indications of hygrometers and thermometers. He applied the barometer to the determination of heights. The Philosophical Transactions published his account of the new hygrometer, which resembled a mercurial thermometer, with an ivory bulb, which expanded by moisture and caused the mercury to descend. He later devised a whalebone hygrometer which sparked a bit controversy with Horace Benedict de Saussure, himself inventor of a hair hygrometer. He gave the first correct rules for measuring heights with the help of a barometer. Deluc advocated the use of mercury, instead of alcohol, in thermometers. In 1809 he sent a long paper to the Royal Society on separating the chemical from the electrical effect of the dry pile, a form of voltaic pile, with a description of the electric column and aerial electroscope, in which he advanced opinions contradicting the latest discoveries of the day. They were deemed inappropriate to admit into the transactions. The dry column described by Deluc was constructed by various scientists, and his improvement of the dry pile has been regarded as his most important work, although he was not in fact its inventor. He was a valued mentor to the young Francis Ronalds, who published several papers on dry piles in 1814–15. Scriptural and observational data. The last decades of Deluc's life were occupied with theological considerations. In his controversy with Hutton, while never arguing that Hutton was an atheist, Deluc did accuse him of failing to counter atheism sufficiently. He took care in reconciling observational data and the scriptures considered as a description of the history of the world. In his Lettres physiques et morales he explained the 6 days of the creation as epochs preceding the current state of the globe, and attributed the deluge to the filling up of cavities in the interior of the earth. The subject is discussed at length by Martina Kuhlbel-Ebert in Geology and Religion. Bibliography. Selection. Account of the new hygrometer, Philosophical Transactions, 63 halves, 1773, p. 440–460. Barometrical Observations on the Depth of the Mines in the Harz, Philosophical Transactions, 67 halves, 1777, p. 401–550. An essay on pyrometry and areometry and on physical measures in general, London, Nichols, 1778–79. An elementary treatise on geology, pr1 at Google Books, translated by Henry de Lafitte. Geological Travels, London, 1810–11. Travels in the North of Europe. Travels in England. Experiments concerning the electric machine, showing the electric effects of frictions between bodies, London, 1811. Geological Travels in some parts of France, Switzerland, and Germany. Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3 on Google Books. Letters on the Physical Theory of the Earth, addressed to Professor Blumenbach, London, 1831. Lists of online works. List of online works on Erara. Ch. Articles published in the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society. Jean-André Deluc. Lettres physiques et morales sur l'histoire de la Terre et de l'homme. 5 volume. Digital facsimile from the Linda Hall Library. Jean-André Deluc. Geological Travels. 3 volume. Digital facsimile from the Linda Hall Library.